All right, lesson 12, working with Camera Raw. You're going to open a Camera Raw image in Adobe Camera Raw, which is built into your Photoshop program. You're going to adjust tone and color in a raw image. You're going to sharpen. You're going to synchronize your settings across multiple images, and you're going to retouch a portrait of a lovely lady in Camera Raw using your masked adjustments. So Camera Raw will give you flexibility for whenever you have to modify your photos. For most photographers, we will take photos at an event or a session. We will bring them into Camera Raw. I still operate in Camera Raw and Photoshop. Some people use Lightroom and other programs, but I bring mine in and I do batch editing. So I take care of a whole bunch of settings that I know are needed. I'll typically take care of the color and tone and basic changes and lighting effects that I want to do. And then I go in for touch-ups manually when I'm in Adobe Photoshop. So we're going to start with a photo of a mission. So in your Photoshop, we are going to open up a Spanish-style church in a Camera Raw file. So go ahead and go to File, Browse and Bridge. Okay, click here. We're going to go to our lesson 12 once it opens up. Okay, so we've got our stuff. We have our mission file. We're going to double click that one. So in here, you see your Camera Raw CRW file. Okay, here's the mission 1, mission 2, mission 3, right? If we go back to your lesson 12, this is your start file. This will be your end. See how it's brighter? Okay. So you can see here that your start file is a .crw, a Camera Raw image file. Your end file is a PSD. Okay, so you're going to be starting with a Camera Raw and ending with a Photoshop file because you've brought it into Photoshop. So these NEF files are typically a Nikon image, and anything that's a CR2 is a Canon. But you can also see that on our start file, you can see the difference here between start and end. So your digital cameras can save in Camera Raw format. It's where you don't save it as a JPEG. Highly suggest that if you're taking any kind of photos for product placement or advertising and sessions, you're going to want to shoot in that so you can do batch editing and have a little bit more freedom of converting your raw file to all these images. Okay, so we are going to open up the mission first. We are going to simultaneously open all three of these. So we're going to hold Shift and click mission 1, 2, and 3. We're going to double click and you're going to open it into a completely different window than you've had before. This has everything that you would need to modify your imagery at a much more detailed level than you could with just adjustments and image changes within Photoshop. So some of you might get a welcome to Camera Raw message. Just continue with that, get started, and you can take a look at that and then move on to this window. So there's a whole bunch of items that are on here. Now, if you're looking in your book at page 291, or if you're on the digital book that I've provided for you, there we go. You can see down here, you've got your film strip divider. Okay, you can drag and adjust pieces down here. You have your fit and your zoom. That's down here, kind of like your other program. Then up in this area, you've got your histogram, right? You have an option up here to save. You can convert and save your image. Here's your preferences. This is to go to full screen mode. So there's your edit. You can do other changes here with cropping. You can do other modifications here with your remove tool, masking, red eye, layering snapshots for changes, and all of your presets as well. There's also other little buttons down here you can open. And then you've also got more details down here. You've got your magnifying glass, that zoom tool. You have your hand tool, toggle sampler overlay. You've got your grid overlay. So if you've got more than one image that's selected in Camera Raw, the film strip, the thumbnails are going to have a gray border. See that? The other ones that are selected. This is your current image that you're viewing. Camera Raw is going to always bring up a new preview for you as well. So if that film strip disappears, it's because you click the film strip menu button, all right, that's down here. See that? So if you ever need to get back to that or you're not seeing it, click that button. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So we want to be able to see the profile panel. All right, we're going to select it here. We're going to want to show our file names, so let's click and hold. Okay, when you do that, you can see that all these other options pop up. We're going to want to view it horizontal, but we're going to show the file names. Okay, there, now you can see those. So some of these might already be set up with a profile, an Adobe RAW profile. That will create the initial render for how your photos are opened up. So see, you have Adobe Color. If you go to Adobe Landscape, do you see how it subtly changes here? These are presets that are built within it. And if you click through, you can see a little bit of subtle differences between them. We're going to work on Adobe Landscape right here. So we're going to go ahead and start with adjusting the white balance. All right, we are going to open up the white balance option. It's under Color. So you're going to click that drop down button here. Now you've got a white balance. You can have it as shot, but you can also change how it's read. It's similar to what you've got on a camera setting if you're using a digital camera. We're going to choose cloudy right here. Okay, that automatically shows you what the white balance would be based on that data information there with the cloudy setting. If we want to tighten that up a little bit more to make it a little bit more realistic than the as shot option that's in there, we're going to select this white balance tool, and we want to find something that would be white or gray. So obviously you have a whole bunch of image of the clouds. Let's go ahead and start there. We're going to click here, and you can see it automatically starts to change based on the brightness of what section of cloud. See if it's darker, compensates. I'm going to go down here to this small sign. That's most likely a very, very white image. So if you click here, you can see that it has modified the rest of the image to pull off of if that was your white, solid white. So if you click here, this will let you see the image when you first brought it in and now to what you've modified. See the richer reddish color that's in here? And a little bit bluer sky. The clouds seem to be a little bit more defined. Now if you want to turn that off, you can easily just go here, cycle between before and after views. Now we're going to make some basic tonal adjustments in Camera Raw, right? We're going to use that contrast slider. So everything except for contrast, moving a slider to the right will lighten that area of the image that it affects. Moving it to the left will darken those areas. Let's take a look. If I click exposure and move it to the right, do you see how that brightens up that image? Okay, reset to 0. Highlights, you can see how that changes. Shadows, see that? Whites. Black. And the differences with contrast. See that? So let's go back to 0 across the board. And go ahead and turn off. Now there's other items. So if you go down after light, you're going to see other options for color. This is where you had your white balance, but you can also change the temperature of something. Okay, cooler with the blues, a little bit warmer when you go into the yellows. Let's undo that. Now your tint, you can lean towards the magenta or go back towards the green. Undo. Your vibrance, how strong those colors come through. Your saturation, that's going to affect any of your tones going forward. And then if you go this way, you're obviously going to remove the saturation of color within and end up with a black and white image. Then of course, if you use your vibrance, that's going to take anything that's not saturated and it's going to change those as well. So see how there's still a slight tone of color that's in here? That's because the saturation level. All right, let's go take a look at what happens when you hit auto, right? So you've got in your edit profile, you've got auto, black and white, high def resolution. So let's hit auto. This is an auto correction that it's giving based on the information that's available to it, right? So it's going to have an effect on things in the lights and color panels. Sometimes it nails it and it's exactly what you need, but sometimes your shadows, your highlights need a little bit of a boost, and auto is a great way to kind of get a happy medium, and then you can build it there to make your style really show out. So let's go over to the light panel and let's modify this from that auto setting. We are going to update the exposure to positive 50. Okay. We're going to keep the contrast at 0, but we are going to modify the highlights down 20. We're going to update the shadows to a positive 70. We're going to change the whites to a positive 20, and then we're going to drop down the black to negative 10. In that color panel, let's open this one up. We are going to make a slight modification to the vibrance. We're going to add it to 20. Okay. And under saturation, we're going to leave that there, but then we are going to open up that in your effects. We are going to update the clarity, which you've got texture. Let me show you what these do. See, we're at a flat 0 across the board. Your texture can help define those edges or soften them. Now, I know tons of you have probably seen this style filter on people's Instagram photos. This will give you an insane amount of detail and right around the edges, and this will soften those. Let's return to 0 on that. Now, same with the clarity, right? It's like a sharpening. Your clarity, you can see how it details out all this right here. Watch what happens when we go the complete opposite way. See that? It really softens it out. So, your dehaze, I never really use this one, but it'll kind of remove that gray area. It almost boosts the contrast like a ton, as you can see here. It's kind of like a smoggy look. Vignette, very rarely, but this way is your white vignette, and this way is your black. And then grain is obviously trendy, and people like to put grain in their photos now, like we shoot on film. So that is the option to be able to give it a little bit of grain. But let's go ahead and see. This last step was to change your clarity to a positive 20. So let's go there. Okay. And that's it. So now your image, if we want to compare, we're going to go down here to cycle between your before and after. And now you can see what it's done. It's taken out this gray medium that's within it. It's definitely brightened up this building. It's given you a whole bunch of highlights in this palm tree here. The clouds are much more defined against the blue sky. The mountains are even more detailed, especially this bush thing right here, and also the bricks and the stone walking up there. So it hasn't changed too much from the style and color of the building, which is good. It stayed pretty natural. But yeah, we are going to sharpen from here. Let me close this one up. So they want to make sure that we're seeing this in 100%. You can always check that by going down here. See how you got a 100% in this area? You can always change that by going here. You can look at it at 6%. You can look at it at 1600%. But we're going to go ahead and change it back to 100. Okay, there we are. Now we are going to grab the hand tool that's back over here on the right side. We're going to drag the image so that we are panning down so that we can get to the top. Here we go. So we're going to go over here to our detail. We're going to hit this drop down. Okay, sharpening is currently at 40. So we're going to change that value to 100. Okay, we're going to slowly pan this way. There is 100. You can see the difference. I'm going to hit Command Z. Can you see that subtle change? Command Z, and then Command Shift Z to get back to where I was. If you can't do that, just go right back to 100. Now, we're going to take a look at that disclosure. See that? We're going to change our radius to 0.9. we are going to change that detail to 25, which is good. We are going to change the masking to 61. So let's take a look at what we've got here. I mean, that looks pretty beautiful. Your masking slider, that helps keep that sharpening constrained along its edges. With the changes that we made, we're going to bring that down to 70. Okay. Before you do anything, your camera raw will not save your changes in this original file. So whenever you save your camera raw file, it's going to also save an additional file with it, which is typically an XMP file. It's a, as they call it, a sidecar file. It stores its name and data in it so that when you open it up, it applies those changes to the file that you have, the original file, so that those baseline items are updated with your changes. You got all three of your church images. Here's what I do. When I'm batch editing, I find all the images that are similar. I select all three and I apply the changes to all three. So you can do something like this. You can do control and you can select all, right? So now you've got your selected image and the two grayed out boxes are the ones that are also selected but not being currently viewed. So then we're going to go like this. We are going to click and hold that film strip. I'm going to hit Control and right click, and I'm going to go here to this image, the one that's selected. I'm going to copy edit settings, and then I'm going to paste edit settings. Do you see how that changed those two images as well? You can also click that three buttons and say sync settings. Now, the great thing about this one is it'll pop up this synchronized box. So say that I'm wanting the same thing, but I don't want to apply a certain detail because it's a close-up picture of a family or something. You can deselect that. So I'm going to hit OK, and there, it did the exact same thing. So we're good with synchronizing, which we did. Now, not many people have the ability to open RAW files. If a client ever asks you for the RAW files, unless they paid you for them, don't give them to them. Hang on to them. But you can be able to save these as JPEGs or PSDs and then work on them further. You can see each of the images and how they've been modified with the same settings as the one over here. We're going to do a convert and save. So see this? We are going to hit this button here. So let's go through the save option dialog box and we are going to do the following. We are going to choose save in same location from the destination menu, right? Save in same location. So you're good. Here's your selected folder, right into the lesson 12 mission folder. We're going to keep document name in the first box. We're going to choose JPEG from the format and we're going to select the level of 8 to 9, which we're good, JPEG 8 to 9. In the image sizing area, in the color space area, we're going to choose the sRGB, which we're good. There's all kinds of other settings that you can have, but we're going to go ahead and keep this one. In the image sizing area, we're going to do resize to fit. You've got it right here. You're going to click that. We're going to do 800 pixels. Resize to fit helps whenever you're posting to an online viewing forum. 300 pixels per inch. We're going to change that to 72 for web viewing. And then they do have output sharpening, but I think we're going to leave that off. Then we are going to go up here and we are going to hit save. Okay. When you have a lot of images that you're changing, typically you'll have a countdown box that's down here, kind of counting down every image until you're done. We're going to go ahead and take one of these images, the mission 1, and we're going to open it in Photoshop now. We're going to go over here and we're going to hit this drop down. So there are 3 options. Once you click here, there's open, open as object, and open as copy. So we are going to do this as an open as object. That's going to open it as a smart object, preserving its original file inside that Photoshop document. If you had done open, that would be permanently converted into a normal Photoshop layer and no more raw format edits could be made. So we're going to open as object. Then it's going to come in. There you are. Now you're in Photoshop. You can see it's a smart object. It's labeled Mission 01. And we're going to do File, Save As. And we're going to rename this Mission _ Final. You can put your first name there too if you want to. We are not going to save it in Lesson 9. We're going to go to Lessons. Make sure that we're in Lesson 12, right? We're going to leave it as a PSD, Photoshop, and we are going to hit Save. It's going to ask your format. You are good. Okay. And then you are going to close that file. Awesome. Part 1 complete. You can read more about your camera raw files and HDR files that are within that chapter. Let's go ahead and move on to retouching a portrait and camera raw. Okay. So we are going to say that we're opening up our image. We're going to pull up the Lesson 12 folder and we're going to do the 12B start.nef. Browse and bridge. Okay. We're going to go back to Lesson 12. You've got your start file. You see it here. And then you have your end file. Let's pull up our start and we're going to double click it. Now it's opened up in RAW again. You can tell, camera raw. We're going to go back to that white balance tool that we had before. Now there's a couple of options that you can use. You can use that one bright white that's far behind her, where her left ear would be, her dress, the flower, her eyes. We are going to go ahead and sample from her dress. We're going to switch to white balance. So we're going to go over here to Profile. We're going to do Adobe Portrait. Let's watch the changes. Okay, subtly in the background, right? There. There. Okay. We're at Adobe Portrait, right? Now we're going to take our white balance. We're going to pull right from her dress. Let's go right here. Immediately freshens her up to a pinker shade. We're going to go down to the film strip menu. Since we only have this one image, we only need to refer to the one that we have up top. So there you go. Now we're going to go to the edit and we're going to hit auto. Okay. It's going to make some changes. I actually really liked it the other way, but okay. It brightens up a whole lot of sharpened areas and skin tone and hair color. So we're still though going to modify her highlights and a couple of other changes that they had there. So while it was a great start, let's make some little bit of changes. We're going to go over to the light panel, drop that down. Okay, we're going to change that contrast. That's super strong here. Watch that change. We're going to go down to 20. I'm going subtly, and then I want to show you the before and after. Ready? Command Z. See that? She's still got the intensity, but it doesn't take so much from her eyes and her cheeks. Positive 21 to negative 20. We are going to also change that clarity that's down here. Under effects, we're going to change that to a positive 8. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You got to be careful though, because it can really start to show, I don't want to say imperfections in the skin because everybody's skin is perfect the way it is, but it can start showing a little bit more contrast and details than you might want or a client might want. So you can just kind of subtly make those changes. Now, there's a couple of things that this model would like removed, and we're going to use the Content Aware Remove tool to fix a couple of the blemishes, which again, you do you, boo. So in our toolbar over here, see how we have a couple little other options? This one, and you'll see that there's a remove tool. So there's the erase, the remove, then there's a heal, and then there's a clone. So we're going to use our heal that's here. Size is 15. The opacity, good. We're at 100. Sweet. So see this little brush that we have here? Change our view to 100. Great. Now it's a subtle change, not a big fan. Now we're gonna click on this little spot. See how it automatically changes? I don't like that. Let's go in a little bit closer. Okay, I'm gonna stick with that. So this is good. See, your show overlay was off. If it's on, please turn it off, but you're good. So when that show overlay is enabled, like, you'll be able to see the location of that tools edit. See this? It can tell you don't need that. You're fine. It just lets you know the modification that you made. So we're going to do a couple of fine lines that are around her eyes and her mouth, and you can brush away freckles and blemishes. There's a lot of stuff you can do. But we're going to take a couple of little modifications. We're not going to go too crazy. She doesn't need a full-on facelift. Oops. If you need to move around, you can use your move tool here. I'll zoom out a little bit. They want you to edit her fine lines, which is ridiculous, but okay. We're going to switch back over to our heel right here. We're going to keep it at 15 and 100. Turn that off. Let's do a couple real subtle stuff. So what it's doing is it's sampling the area, so you obviously don't want to add more than she needs, but you can modify just a couple of things. I mean, her freckles are really cute, but whatever. So when it samples that area, you risk it picking up more stuff. Let's see, if you change your opacity, it won't be as strong of a copy. Still though, I can see that, and I don't like that it blurs. Little change. That's working with the heel, which doesn't really need to be done, but let's go ahead and switch over to masking, right? So you've got this here. Now you have a new set of options here. You have your subject, your sky, your background. We're going to make a mask with this. We're going to brighten her eyes. Modifies just that. So that way your adjustments just stay to the eyes. The brightening of the eyes doesn't brighten her hair. We're going to pick our brush right here. Okay, this is going to record yourself a new mask. These modifications will be just for it, not for the rest of the image. In our brush options, we're going to change it to the size is going to be 2. Our feather is at 100. Our flow is at 50. Our density is 100, and our auto mask is off. Awesome. So we're going to scroll the brush settings, and we're going to get to the color panel, and we're going to set that saturation down here to 70. That's going to increase that contrast and color. Okay, let's get her eyes and her lips in the same shot. Right, we're going to turn that off. Now we are going to drag that brush tool over the irises in the eyes to increase their saturation. Okay. Okay, well, it'll be too oversaturated. And you can kind of see it, but you see how you have this black image and you've got the 2 little white dots very subtly in there? When you highlight over it, do you see how it changes so you can see it all? So you can always undo and try again if you want it to be a little bit tighter. Let's take a look. Better. We're going to double click it and we're going to call that eye irises. Let's take a look. Anything else that needs to change? We're good. Eye irises. Okay. That red overlay is going to show you where you brushed. So if there are spaces that you don't, so say you went into that white area or really high up into her mascara, you can go ahead and get the brush mask and subtract from it by holding Alt or Option as you brush. So I'm going to use my Option, And I'm going to go right here. See how it calms it down a bit? And I think the other one's fine. Cool. So let's make another brush, and we're going to do the desaturate those red corners of the eyes, which are right here. So we're going to do a create a new mask. Boop. We're going to choose brush. Cool. In the colors panel, let's turn this saturation to -50. And we're going to go right here. So we're cutting down all that red that was in the corner of her eyes. Like it was so terrible. Okay, so that's done. You can go ahead and see that here. I'm going to double click and call that eye corners. Okay, let's do another. Create a mask. We're going to do another brush. We're going to go over to lights, and we are going to change that brush to a positive exposure of 0.50. There it is. And we're going to brush over the whites of the eyes, the irises, and that shadow above the eye. Okay. Do you see these little changes that are being made? Let's do that here. Okay. Especially if it gets right there. Okay. Change this to eye brighten. We're going to do it again. We're going to look at this hide and see the changes that we've made. Let's smooth her skin, shall we? We're going to get the magnification to fit in view. In the mask panel, we're going to do create a new mask, and we're going to do select people. Okay, create a new mask, select people, and there she is. We're going to do our facial skin, body skin. Okay, we're going to skip her hair, even though that is a riveting hairstyle on her. So we're just going to use facial skin, and we're going to use body skin, and then I think that's all. Let me triple check. Yep. Everything else is deselected, and we're going to hit create. Okay, so there she is. Now, it's isolating that softening, smoothing skin texture only for this area, so you're not going to lose quality in the hair. So our mask 1 is selected. You can see here, there's the outline of her dress. There's the rest where her hair is. It's got her body skin, facial skin. So we're going to switch this to, oh, we're pretty good, 100%. Okay. And we're going to go over here to effects, all the way down. And we're going to change the effect for texture down 30, -30. You can already see what it's done. We go this way, huzzah. -30. There you go, much softer. So if we need to do any other changes, so if there's a color cast to remove from her skin, we can use the adjusting option in mask 1 and go to color. So we can go back up if we want to. We can look here if we want to maybe bring her down to a little bit more natural of a blue. If we want to keep her with that high yellow, give her an insane tan. Oh my God. We're going to rename this mask skin. So, I mean, it's up to you if you feel like this is the vibe. I still feel it's a little bit highly saturated. Let's go look at our masks again. Let's bring her down just a smidge, shall we? Let's take a look at some modifications. That's if we bring down the contrast, and that's if we increase it. I'm pretty good at 0. I'm gonna bring her down just a little. Not as much yellow. I think that's really pretty. There, she's very natural. All right, so you've gotten your image from bridge to raw. You did your edit. Let's go ahead and we're gonna save it, but we're gonna do it open. So when you open it here, see how it's not opened as a smart object? We're gonna go do this. We're gonna hit save. 12B. Let's make that working. Photoshop. Awesome. And I think you're good. You can do more things in it. You can make other changes, but other than that, you're done. You can see that if you open that up again, you've got your end image. Here's your start. If you click that open, your changes should be registering on here. See that? So we can hit done and you're good to go.